Peace be upon you. I am Qadi Tayyib, and this is Qur'anomics. And this is part one of this series from the Islam of the Quran to the Islam of the Hadith of Imam Al-Shafi'i, the true founder of traditional Sunni Islam religion. Now, Imam Malik before Imam Al-Shafi'i. Before Imam Al-Shafi'i, there was Imam Malik bin Anas, and he wrote a book citing the deeds of prophets and people of Medina, trying to get a compilation of how life was back then, since he was born after, and trying to combine or clarify the teaching between what has been said and practiced in Medina, what the Prophet did and said. So he used to narrate opposites, or let's just say more than one version, and or more correctly, contradictions in Hadith, what the Prophet said, according to what he heard from the people of Medina on the authority of the Messenger, because he was more reliant on the deeds, on the practice of people than on what he heard, or what people heard, such as daily life chores like urinating standing, or sitting, or kissing while fasting, eating with the right or left hand, or walking with one shoe, anything, any other, any just regular deeds of daily life chores. So he says the people of Medina and the Sunnah, and as it was commonly known, what he says amongst us, that means the Sunnah in which there is no difference to us, and which I heard from the people of knowledge. And once again, he ends it with in our country, region, area, tradition, etc., denoting that the Sunnah was the way of life, the way how every group, every society practiced their way of life. So some societies might have a spike in a certain way of doing things, and not in others, life is exchanged. So one society might be famous for one thing, and another society might be famous for another thing, and that's how people need each other. So, and with this, Malik opened the door to opinions on the wider scale without being restricted to it. So basically, he would take a stance, then contradict it. So he'll take a hadith and then bring in another hadith, contradict it, or leave it open for challenge, creating conflict. Also, in his first edition of his book, Al Muwatta, the supported, he narrated thousands of hadith at the beginning, and during his lifetime, eliminated them to the point he only had a couple of hundred, or maybe a handful of them. When a conflict in narration ensued, or contradicting itself, and one needed to be picked over the other, comparison was made not between the two texts, but between, or the two hadith, but it turns to verifying the narrator's personality, competence, sanity, to verify the validity of his experience. And the text, the hadith subject, was no longer as important as a bond, narrator's authenticity. So basically, they will choose the most pious person, what they think the pious person is, and this needs conditions such as, like praying, worshiping, fasting, giving alms, telling the truth according to what they see. So, but they really don't know what's in the person's heart. So, if you're an unknown commoner, or you have no connection to that society of knowledge or hadith or religious uh, upbringing, then you're not going to be. No one's going to listen to you, even though you might say the truth. Now, the word sunnah was a colloquial word that belonged to the companions and the followers, or the general community, in their work and their consensus, because the sunnah, like I said, is a way of life. It's what God intended to be on earth. So, like I said, every society has a sunnah, but then within that society, you have different people uh, have unique habits, unique deeds, or they bring in something new to that society, and people say that's his sunnah. That's what he brought in. That's what he invented. That's what he came in with. That's what he contributed. It's either could be good or could be bad. So that's what the Sunnah was made, or commonly known. So Umar ibn Khattab has a Sunnah. I mean, he started a lot of things, but one of the things that he started was that there was no jails in the Arabian Peninsula, but he, as Amir al Mu'mineen, or the ruler, he started a jail. So that was kind of his Sunnah. Abdullah bin Abbas also has a Sunnah, and Abdullah bin Mas'ud has a Sunnah, and Aisha, al Mu'mineen, the mother of the believers, she also had a Sunnah. In other words, it's a way of life or deed that defines them and how they practice and carry themselves. And so it was not tied to anyone. So the Sunnah was started by one person, or the way of life. It was brought in or started by one person, but it was then practiced by everybody else. So the Sunnah was something general until a Shafi'i came and linked Sunnah strictly to the personality of the Prophet and surrounded it with a wall of holiness. The concept and reference of the prophetic Sunnah, according to Malik, is a follower, companion, or what commonly people practice. But people chose, basically, let's say, the commoners, the companions, or the followers, because they looked up to them. They looked up to them. So that's why it was them first. But according to a Shafi'i, it is purely prophetic. And in the next parts, we will find out step by step, and word for word how he deceived everyone, how he created it. And we intend to make these short videos, 2, 3, 4 minutes, so we could take our time and not compile them all into one video, so we could review it and think clearly how Imam Shafi'i did it. And you have to be patient and follow, and you will find out something new.